Let's go to the Aquatic Center real quick. Just real quick, you put in a splash pad, and it's been accused that, my goodness, you guys are just spend, like you throw in a splash pad at the last minute just because. Tell us and explain again, I know you heard it once, but explain us in detail why the splash pad first.
Sure, so I'm happy to do that. As we looked at this educational pool, it really is what ended up happening. When the county proposal didn't pass, they had a more extravagant pool that the community did vote down, and we respect that. But as a school board, we saw the need, that we needed another facility for our students, for our swim team, not only a swim team, but for our special needs students, not only for them, but for our elementary kids who visit those pools. They learn how to swim. They get comfortable with water. We're surrounded in this community by water. So we felt it was very important. The splash pad was always a component of that. But at the time we were bidding that, we didn't know for sure if we could afford to have a splash pad in that. So we pulled the splash pad out of that proposal. The city was also talking about doing a splash pad at that time, and we thought, well, if the city can do that, that's great. That would be good for the community. But the city decided not to do that. They had their reasons, and again, I respect that. So as we went through the process of building the aquatic center, building the junior high, building the Daniel Canyon Elementary, we were able to save some money or generate some excess revenue. And when that happened, it was determined, hey, there's not a splash pad in the valley. They're not going to do it. This was part of our original plan. We feel like it will bring in extra revenue to help offset the cost of a pool. And that's when we decided to do that. We didn't go over budget. We were able to do it with that budget. The other thing I do want to also explain is that we were able to also, because of making both facilities the same, which we can do in a bond situation, we're able to add on another gymnasium at Rocky Mountain Middle School. So again, we felt very prudent in what we did, very financially responsible, that we were able to do those two things. And that's why the splash pad's here.
And let me just make sure we understand that you've told me, and I make sure, splash pad actually was an element of income. So It was a capital expense, you had to spend up front, but because when people come there, they have to pay a fee to get in, or a membership fee, that generates revenue on an ongoing basis to help with the maintenance and operation of the entire facility. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we felt that would be an enhancement that people would say, hey, there's another thing we can do at the pool.
So spend some initial money to make long-term over to help cover costs.
Correct.
And that was, if I can kind of add my perspective to that as well, the school district was elated when Wasatch County put forth a bond resolution for a pool. And we were tickled pink at the thought of being out of the pool business because, as everyone knows, pools don't generate money. That's why mostly pools are ran by municipalities. When that bond failed, we felt like we had no choice. As the board talked this over, we had a very growing swim program. Our kids were very successful. They were doing well. And
State champs.
We had over 100 kids in our high school program. Then down through our age group swimming, we had teams coming up all the way down through. There were hundreds and hundreds of kids competing in Wasatch swimming at that time. And the pool was built in the 70s when there was not a hint of ever a swim team or the programs that we have now being in there. And so the board, this wasn't something they took lightly, and they cut that number from the county's proposal of $24 million almost in half, down to $12 million, and the pool did end up costing us about $14 million. But as Mr. Baird said, there was some flexibility with the other schools that allowed us to finish it the way that we wanted to finish it. USA Swimming, our advisors that we brought in and spent several days with, are the ones that suggested that we put these recreational components in, not only for the enjoyment of the community, but to offset our annual operating expense. And I hope the public can understand that the idea of the splash pad, along with the other recreation components, was to make that annual operating expense offset so that it wasn't as large of an expense to the district on an annual basis. And we believe that splash pad over time will pay for itself and then begin helping offset those annual operating costs.